My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here. There you see me. There you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask you pardon for my sins and the grace to make these moments of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. It impresses me, Jesus, to see the lengths that you go to break through to souls. Even with your disciples at times, you speak with a lot of determination. Today's gospel is a good example of that. It's very forceful. I'd say it better probably if I said that you are very forceful in the way that you talk. St. Matthew puts us at a time not long before your passion and death, and I wonder if that wasn't a part, at least, of what moved you to speak so strongly. I think a lot of us will recognize that we tend to talk a lot through our own experiences, especially the things which we are currently experiencing. We can't help but be moved by our own context and move others in accord with the intensity of what we experience. And I rather imagine that you, Jesus, were very much the same. I think your humanity probably moved your speech here, as we see that it does in other circumstances. So I presume that, as you drew closer and closer to the time of your departure, you talked more and more about eternity and about ensuring one's place there. That could all sound rather apocalyptic and catastrophic, but thinking of you, feeling the coming moment when you will leave this life, I can easily understand you speaking with that much passion and determination in order to defend the souls you love, in order to keep them safe, in order to make sure that they follow you there. So it's with a lot of interest that I look at you as I read this impassioned plea to your disciples. Stay awake, because you do not know the day when your master is coming. You may be quite sure of this, that if the householder had known at what time of the night the burglar would come, he would have stayed awake and would not have allowed anyone to break through the wall of his house. Therefore you too must stand ready, because the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. To be fair, I can't imagine you sneaking up on me, or anyone else, like a thief in the night, Jesus. I'm sure it has a lot more to do with our risk of negligence than you trying to catch us off guard. Thing is, if you don't think you've got anything to protect, then you won't bother being vigilant, right? And that's one of the great risks that we run. When people get distracted from you, Lord, and set their hearts on other things, it's not even that those things are really so fantastic, but that before they ever got so distracted, they never realized what a great treasure they possessed. And so, all too tragically, they failed to protect it. I think of St. Augustine as an example of, you could say, the reverse. He went trying everything in the world in order to find satisfaction, and never found it. Never found it until he stopped looking out into the world for happiness and turned his gaze inward to a place where he could discover you. Many people will have heard that famous line from his Confessions, where he cries out to you, Lord, "Late have I loved you, beauty so ancient and so new. Late have I loved you." And the interesting thing for our prayer today is that he continues by explaining that he was looking for satisfaction in external things, looking for you, not knowing it was you he was looking for, in the things of this world that so swiftly misled him and malformed him. And so he continued, "Lo, you were within, but I was outside, seeking there for you. And upon the shapely things that you had made, I rushed headlong, I, misshapen." The sure thing is that when St. Augustine found you, he knew he had found a great treasure, one so great that it was in need of protecting and worthy of proclaiming. For many people, the context is the reverse. When a person grows up with a treasure like that, it's easy not to treasure it, not to protect it, not to realize that you even have it. And so it's all too easy to fall headlong upon modern, shapeless, worldly things, where it seems that happiness ought to be. Things that range from binging TikTok to binging alcohol or drugs, or plenty more possibilities. But when we contemplate the absurdity of us wasting the treasure that we have on squeezing in an extra hour of TikTok, or whatever the platform of choice is, it's easy to understand why you spoke so forcefully to your disciples today, Jesus. Funny thing is, if you realize that you have something to protect, and that someone can rush in and steal it, you become way more vigilant. Coming back to that gospel scene, I have to admit that the thought of the thief in the night reminded me of an experience I had quite some years ago. In the middle of the night, I was awoken once in my sleep, awoken by a noise outside. A car, moving. Well, that wasn't too much of a surprise. It was confusing, but I recognized the car. I could tell the sound of the engine was a Corolla. We had a Corolla in the house. One of the guys I lived with owned it. But I thought, what was he doing driving in the middle of the night? Well, I realized, of course, it was the World Cup football, so obviously he was going to go and visit a friend, because in my part of the world, most of those games take place in the middle of the night. But it didn't make sense. Why was he driving so badly? He couldn't seem to get the car out of the driveway easily, and he did that every single day. It shouldn't have been that hard. That midnight slumber caused my mind to run so slow, and you could almost hear the clockwork ticking as it sleepily floated through the possibilities, the tick, 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 until finally, in one instant, I realized what was happening, and I leapt out of bed before my brain had ever managed to contemplate a plan. We were being robbed in the middle of the night, and someone was stealing our cars. In fact, it turned out that some people were stealing not just our cars, but trying to steal everything in the house. Just like the gospel, there was a small door left open through which they had entered in the middle of the night. We didn't think much of that open door because we didn't think anyone was interested in stealing stuff from us. We were wrong. Well, I won't tell you how the story ended, but suffice to say it got a little complicated. The purpose for our prayer today is more of what happened afterwards. For months following that event, any time any of us living there heard a noise in the night, any noise at all, we would give a start and immediately think, they're back, to try again to get the things they didn't grab that night they came before. We were, in fact, a bit excessively vigilant. But for the first time, we realized that we had something to protect. Too many of us Christians fail to reach that conclusion about our faith, about our relationship with you, Jesus. Help us then to listen to your impassioned words today, to contemplate how much you want us not to get distracted by worldly things or by worldliness, but to realize that there is one thing that matters and nothing else, and that one thing is you. Our Mother Mary, guide us so that we will always have our hearts directed to your Son, and through him, protected by him, we will be able to enjoy even the things of this world as a means to get to him, and not the reverse. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations which you have communicated to me in this time of prayer. I ask your assistance in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.